Today we have Sarah Michelle Bliss, and Sarah is a master coach, an international best-selling author, a speaker, real estate trainer. She has her ABR and ePro. For 28 years, Sarah has been part of the RE/MAX family, which is pretty cool, and an original founder at her brokerage in sunny Arizona, RE/MAX Professionals. She joined the #1 Nate Martinez team as a buyer's agent in 1997, and in 2002 took the position of team leader to manage Nate's team for the next 10 years. She's a published author, has trained both locally and nationally, including for the development and delivery of accredited real estate classes. In 2021, she co-authored an international best-selling book, 8 Ways to Dominate Any Real Estate Market, with mentor, business partner, and friend Nate Martinez. Sarah is a master coach for Workman Success Systems based in Salt Lake City, Utah, and a certified DISC Motivators practitioner, Star Power speaker trainer, licensed realtor, and author for Risk Media. Today, she is the Director of Agent Development and teaches the RE/MAX Momentum Complete Agent Development Program for RE/MAX professionals. In her free time, she enjoys spending time exploring Arizona in her Jeep, loves collecting vinyl, and has the cutest applehead chihuahua named Penny Lane. With that, we'll introduce Michelle Bliss. Sarah Michelle Bliss. Oh. Can you hear me okay? Am I good? All right, awesome. Follow me on Facebook. You'll get to see lots of pictures of Penny Lane. So she's adorable. She recently learned how to jump into my desk chair by my office. And so, now she's very proud of herself when she looks at me and goes, "Mom, I did a good job." So before I get started, I want to tell you guys a story that happened to me a couple weeks ago. I decided to put my Christmas tree up early this year. Usually do it Thanksgiving weekend, but I'm like, you know what? I'm single now. There's no one telling me what I can do and when I can put my tree up. Challenge is, as you can see, I'm only about 5 foot, maybe a little bit taller with the boots on. And I have an 8-foot pre-lit, beautiful Costco tree. You can see where this might be problematic, only being 5 foot. It's only my second time putting it up since the ex left. And last year, I must have just got really lucky because I put it up without much struggle. This year, not so much. So you get the base, right? The middle section's the beast, right? It's the big, heavy part. I'm trying like heck, right? Everything I can to try to shove this in, and because it's pre-lit, it has to go perfectly inside of the little thing, right? So that the lights will connect and power will go. I'm struggling. My back is hurting me, and I'm exhausted, right? I'm trying so hard. I put it down, and I text my sister-in-law, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna have to have Rick come over and help me put this tree up. I'm at a loss. I can't do it. But well, happy later, because I'm going to the club to have dinner with my friend Hope. I come home, and I'm a determined person. Right? I am determined. I am motivated. I'm putting this tree together, right? So again, I'm wrestling with it. My back is hurting me. My arms are shaking. And I set it down and I go out loud, there must be a better way. And in that moment, I look down and what do I see? I'm thinking to myself, Costco sells hundreds of these trees. There has to be a system, right? I look down and there are arrows. There are arrows, right? Yeah, I kind of laughed at myself after my exhaustion. There are arrows, and they were perfectly lined up. And if I just picked the tree up and followed the arrows, it went in without any problems, right? And in my moment as a coach and a trainer, I sat back and I thought, I'm going to use this story because how many of us don't look for the arrows, right? How many of us just want to go in there and force it in, right? Just go in. I'm not going to read the directions. I'm not going to ask for help, right? I've got this. And then our back hurts, our arms are shaking, we're frustrated, we give up, right? And so we have arrows all around us. We listen to a podcast, we come to a class like this, you have an amazing management team. We have arrows all around us. Do we take advantage of that? Do we look at the arrows? Do we use the arrows to help us flow seamlessly through life versus trying to shove it in there being exhausted? Right, so I'll make fun of myself, right? I'll tell that story, but it's a great story because how many of us do it? We do it every day. Right? We struggle with things. When there's help, the universe is here conspiring on our behalf. All we have to do is say, I need your help. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for having me here. We've been talking for a few months about this, and he actually met me through Nate, and you're going to hear me talk a lot about, he's my business partner, also my co-author. If you go to R4, you're going to want to track him down. Right? He is a rock star. I've actually heard people go, oh my gosh, that's Nate Martinez. Walking through the hallway. He's a wealth of knowledge, you guys. He's been to 34 RE/MAX conventions, so he is a diehard like me and just a wealth of knowledge. He'll be happy to buy him a cup of coffee, pick his brain. I would highly encourage you to do that. And it makes me laugh coming here because so many of the things that you guys do, we do in our office. And I love the power of that masterminding and sharing among the brands because you've spent time with Nate, right, at BC and different places. So, like I said,
seek him out if you can. That's why I'm going to talk a lot about him. I want this to be interactive. You guys all got a bookmark. That's the only style I'm going to have for you. If you want to buy a book, great. You can scan the QR code. We also have a journal that's on here. We are in the process of redesigning the journal. When we wrote the book, we're like, what could be a companion that would go great with this to help agents? And so we came up with this journal. The only problem is it's about this big. So it's like a book, a doorstop. So we decided to redesign that. So it's going to be in quarterly daily trackers and then a business plan. So that'll be available in a couple weeks. We're in the process of finalizing that. I have 3 copies to give away to you guys today. So interactive, right? So if you interact with me, one of 3 of you are going to get a copy of the book, okay? That being said, let's go ahead and jump in. Make sure my clicker's working. I guess it helps if I turn it on. Okay, so here's a picture of my parents in the early 1980s. And this was one of the conditions I grew up in, right? My parents were very poor. There's a lot of fighting, a lot of abuse, right? So I grew up in that. And eventually they divorced, but this is actually a picture of them in a home that I lived in would be Southern Oregon in about 1982. And so the title of this chapter is called Rags to Riches, the Red Dress of Courage. Because when I met Nate, this is a great story, I had a license. I was married. I married someone at 17 who was 11 years older than me. I didn't have anything, right? He owned the house. He owned the car. He was in control of everything. And so 21 years old, wanting to get divorced and literally having nothing but a $3,000 credit card, I left my marriage. And I had met Nate and had a license, right? I was working in a real estate office, doing back-end stuff, wanted to do more with it. But here I was faced with nothing, right? And thinking about getting into a job that I have to pay to be there. What? How does that work, right? And so I called around local offices. I called the RE/MAX office up the street from me. And I asked, hey, I've got all this admin experience. Are you guys hiring? And he said, no. But Nate Martinez is always looking for buyer's agents. I didn't know what that was. Right, but I was intrigued. I knew who Nate was. He was the #1 agent in the state at the time. His signs were all over. I'd actually gone up against him on a listing appointment and lost very badly. And so I knew who he was. So I called and I got the interview. And he comes in very nonchalant. And the only thing I had that made me feel like I'd had my crap together was this red dress. It was a wool dress with big shoulder pads, right, and gaudy gold buttons. And I got it from this event called Rags to Riches. And it was basically where rich people gave their hand-me-downs to poor people like me. So, and it was wool. And might I add that I'm from Arizona, so wool is not exactly the most practical thing to be wearing to go on a job interview, right? So I go in, I'm nervous. I know this guy, he's signs are everywhere. He's the #1 guy. And, I'm trying to hold it together so he doesn't know that I don't have my life together, right? And he says to me, he goes, are you hungry? And in my head, I'm thinking, you have no idea. I have no idea. And he goes, well, if I told you to stand on the corner in a yellow chicken suit and it would make you money, would you do it? And in my mind, I imagine myself in a chicken suit on a corner and like, I don't look good in yellow. It's not a good color for me. But yes, I will do it. Right? And in my first year on the team, I was the rookie of the year. I was there every morning, first person to be there, first person to leave, or last person to leave. And I'm here all the years later, right? And we have weathered all kinds of different markets I was just sharing about the REO market. Some of you probably weren't around during that time, but going from, the caravans of people coming to Arizona buying up real estate, that really happened. So we decided a couple years ago to do a business planning workshop and kind of talk about what is it that we do as a team? How were we #1 for so many years? What were the things that we did wrong, right? Let's talk about that too. What were our mistakes? And out of that, we birthed the book. So it turned in from a business planning workshop, recruiting really, and helping agents, the book came to be. So the 8 concepts is what I'm going to go over with you guys today. These are the things that through blood and trial, sweat and tears, we've decided that these are the things that no matter what's happening, if it's a buyer's market, a seller's market, doesn't matter what the interest rates are, if it's a bank-owned market, whatever, right? These are the things that if you do at a high level and it's consistent, then you can survive in any market. And more importantly, I want to see you thrive as well. So is that okay if we get started? All right, great. Okay, so what's your blue dot? This is chapter #1. So I was listening to a book the other day. I forget the author's name, so I apologize, but it's called Your Future Self. Same guy wrote The Gap in the Gain. He was talking about clarity and having hope, and that hope doesn't worry about the odds, right? And he was thinking about having clarity. A client I coached that he said to me a couple months ago when we were doing business planning, he said, if you don't have clarity in the beginning, you have clarity and you have chaos in the end. And think about that. If you start your year out with no vision and no goals and no plan, how does the end of the year look? Chaos, right? It didn't turn out the way we thought it was going to turn out. So we have to have clarity. So a story about Nate and the blue dot. He went to the very, very, very first CRS convention many years ago in Las Vegas. And there was, I won't name names, they're all older people that I wouldn't know anyway, but there was a bunch of rock star agents. And they were all up on the stages telling their secret sauce, right? And they all had a blue dot, their name badge. And when Nate checked in, they said, go seek out the people with the blue dot. Well, they were all selling over 100 homes a year. And at this time, Nate was selling for foreclosures. We used to call them scratch and sniffs because you don't really know what the smell was that was in the house. And so he would go to the courthouse and bid, right? And go sell these $15,000, $20,000 homes that were rough, right? So in his mind, this was a Roger Bannister moment for him. Somebody can sell 100 homes? What? Is that possible? So that was his business plan. He came back to Phoenix and went to work at the detriment of everything else in his life. And he sold over 100 homes. He goes back the next year to CRS and he checks in and he's feverishly looking for his blue dot in his bag, in the little envelope you get. And there's the blue dot. So he says to the lady checking him in, where's my blue dot? And she's perplexed. She's like, I don't know what's this guy talking about, a blue dot, right? So she finally figures it out and she comes back to him. She goes, well, I'm sorry, we're not doing the blue dot anymore. He was defeated, right? Forget that he sold over 100 homes. He wanted the blue dot, right? And so the blue dot represented so much more for him, right? It was that recognition. It was the fact that someone scratched his paradigm to say, hey, you could sell over 100 homes. That's possible, right? And our best year in the REO market, we did 679 units. Yeah, talk to me about that one. We had the twitchies. And people talk about foreclosure stuff now. I'm like, no, let's not go there, because that was not a fun market. So we talk about the blue dot. So having clarity, right? So what is your why? In this book that I started listening to, it talks about that it's just as easy to have a plan to make $1 million as it is to make $100,000. And I agree, but the challenge I have is that if you've never made $1 million, it's hard for us to think, well, can I do that? What does my life look like if I do that, right? How's my life change? Who do I have to become? And so that gets a little bit more difficult. Now, I agree that if we have clarity and we look for the things that we want, and we know what that is, it'll show up. It'll be there, right? I used to have a yellow Jeep. And I never saw yellow Jeeps until I got a yellow Jeep. And now I don't have the yellow Jeep, but I still see yellow Jeeps everywhere. Right? How many of us have experienced that? Right? It's your reticular activator. And so when we think about getting clarity, what is it that you want? I have a couple books up here I'm going to reference throughout, but this is one of my very, very, very favorite books ever written. I've listened to it 5 times. It's You're a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. I highly recommend, and I recommend getting the hard copy and get it on Audible. She's hilarious on Audible, but you want to get the actual copy because each chapter has homework. I've seen people's lives changed with this book because most of us come into this industry still having something to prove, right? You come in, you got a past life, still have something to prove. And oftentimes people aren't even conscious of what that is or who, right? And most people have a very unhealthy relationship with money. And so if you come to me and say, I want to make $1 million, but money is the root of all evil, you're incongruent. I won't say it won't happen, but you'll be pushing a boulder uphill to try to get there, right? So I challenge you to think about that. And most of us at the inside, we do this because we like people. We do this because it's flexible, right? Right. You do this long enough, you're not going to like people, right? And it's not flexible when it's Friday night and your dinner's cold because you got to go show a house, right? We do it because we want to make money. We do it because of what the money does for our life and how it shapes our life and the legacy that we can put our children through school. We can take our parents back to Italy for the last time, right? We do it for that. But yet everyone's running around feeling gross about saying that they just want to make money. So I say, own it, and then go do cool things with it. Because you can't do cool things if you're broke, right? You can't do it. You can't be there and provide and show up for the people that you care about if you're broke. So I highly encourage this. One of my, there's several things, but one of my favorite exercises here is the money mantra. And so identifying what your money mantras are. And like I said, I've done this book times, and I will likely do it again and maybe again. So I had identified my money mantras, growing up poor. My mother used to say that, money doesn't grow on trees. We're not the Rockefellers, right? You have to work hard for money. And I learned lessons through my pocketbook. So I would watch my mom get $500, $600 saved up, and then something would happen. And she would learn a lesson, and the money would go away. So fast forward, I'm making more money, so my lessons are a lot more expensive than my mom's $500 or $600, right? And the one time that I think it was the second, I was reading that book. I was at the gym on the stationary bike, and I'm reading it, and I hear this voice. It's my mother's voice, like she's standing over my shoulder. And she says, "Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You don't deserve to be wealthy. You don't deserve to have success." Right? Those are the words she said to me. And I'm not joking. I literally turned around and looked to see if my mother was standing in the gym. And it was in that moment, though, that my financial life changed. Because I said, no, I know who I am. Right? And that's your belief. That's not mine. And in a moment, it changed. So getting good with your money mantras, right? Those are they true for you? Are they healthy for you? If they're not, we move on. We let them go. We rewrite new things for you. One of my favorite things I say to myself every day, I live in a world of abundance. I also say that I'm healthy, wealthy, wise, and free, and all the good that I am seeking is also seeking me. So get clear, you guys. Have clarity about what it is that you want. And if it's to make money, own it. Own it, and then go do cool stuff, right? So step one, get clear on your vision. What is it that you want to do this year? And sometimes it's not about just selling real estate. We get really one-dimensional. And when I do coaching calls, I get on, I say, give me a why, or give me a win this week. And they always say, well, I listed a house, or I did this, or I did that. Years ago, I was at a Star Power event. And they had the panel up there, the opening session, and everyone's talking about how great they are and the awards and the money and the houses. And one lady's sitting there, she's kind of got her head down, and she stands up. She goes, well, I didn't do any of that, but I lost 100 pounds this year. And the place erupts with cheer, right? Because that's huge. That's life-changing. She lost a backstreet. Like, seriously, like, that's huge. So I say that because I don't want you to be one-dimensional. And so that's the next thing, is the wheel of life, right? Is looking at what are the goals you want in your life. Are there relationships you need to improve, right? Is there health that you want to change? I've been on a health kick, right? Just recently got diagnosed with sleep apnea. Getting old, not for weenies. So I've been on a kick, right? I'm 48. I didn't care about that when I was 28, right? So our perspectives changed. When Nate got in the business, his goal, after he met the guy with the Jordache jeans and the cool snake skin boots who was a realtor, he decided, I want to make enough money to buy a big screen and take my family on vacation. That was his why then. His why today is completely different with 4 or 5 grandchildren, right? His life is different. He owns a model mortgage, a title company. We have all these agents in our office. His why is a lot different than it is today. And I share that because our perspectives change. And so don't think little of your goals, right? Your goal might be really simple, right? I want to better my relationship with my spouse. Great, let's go do that. Okay, so looking at the wheel of life, on one of the slides, you'll get a QR code that you can do some downloads. This is in the book, but I have a free download that you guys can get, so you can grab that when we get to that slide, okay? Like I said, no hard sell from me. So the wheel of life. So looking at what's my lifestyle? Is my health good? Do I have friends? Right? So many of us don't, right? Because we just go to work, we go home, we shut the garage door, we sit on the couch with Netflix if we don't have to run comps, right? Your community. I love your guys' concepts that you do. I was asking last night, how do you guys buy into that? Because we do PCH and it's pulling teeth to get people to give $50 to sick kids, Love that you guys do that. That is something that I don't think I've heard that in any of the offices I've been to or anybody that I coach. So congratulations to you guys on that. And I love your buy-in because it's huge what we do in the community. We were just talking about this morning. We don't do a good enough job talking to people about what it is that we really do. Most people think we just make a bunch of money, wear a Rolex, and drive a Mercedes. Is that true? Right? I don't know about you, but I've cleaned out rotten meat out of a freezer when the power went out. Right? Where's that on social media? Right? Where's the DOJ talking about that? Right? I've right? I delivered groceries to an elderly woman. She was shut in during COVID. Right? Those are the things we do. We make beds for open houses. Right? We help people with their primal need of shelter. There is no other good as human beings that we trade in the United States makes more impact on the economy than when a home sells. I didn't check, I did a lot of research about you guys. I didn't check yours. In Arizona, it's $89,000. Think about that. It's not just about commissions, you guys. It's not just about the lenders of the title company. It's Home Depot. It's the painter. It's the handyman. It's new carpet. It's the pizza delivery guy on the night you move because you're too tired to make a meal, right? So every industry gets impacted by that. We don't do a good enough job advocating for ourselves to defend our value in that, right? Because what we do is a lot more than just being tour guide Barbie, right? So I had to put one of my dogs down last year, and I got to pick the day. He was 18. He had a great life. Got to pick the day, had the vet come to the house. He was in his bed. My girlfriends were over. Everybody put their love, touching him, loving on him. He got popcorn and ice cream. It was a great day, right? And then he took his last breath in his home, surrounded with love, in his bed, his blanket. That's what we do, you guys. That's the impact we have on people. It's not just about the commissions, it's not just about the equity, right? Or the good schools. Yeah, it's important too. That's what we do. We make an impact on people's lives. The day they come home with their baby, right? The day they put their dog down, that's what we do. We need to do a better job advocating for ourselves in our industry because we do more, right? So the wheel of life. So look at your stuff and figure out what are the goals. I went on a rant about community there, but what's your faith, your household relationships, your finances, right? And your career. I have in the downloads a budget that I wrote specifically for our industry. Because if you Google budgets out there, they're weak, right? They're very, very generic, and they don't talk about like MLS dues and what are you going to spend on Popeyes, what do you spend on client events, right? So, and it actually does have a calculator in there to help you with your taxes, which is also missing in most of the budgets that are out there too. And so, like I said, you'll get a slide with that. So just taking some time to really think about, don't be one-dimensional. It's great to know how many homes you want to sell and how much money you want to make, but you're a human being, right? And you have other things in your life that you want to have aspirations for. Okay, so step 2 is your business plan and your budget. I like to call it a spending plan, because if it's in my budget, I can spend it. And we have to spend money to make money, right? One of my very first coaching clients I had with Workman, she and her husband fought. He's a high C. If you know anything about the DISC personalities, it's the analytical person. She's high I, right? So opposites. She liked to shop, and she liked to buy expensive clothes. So I said to her, well, instead of you guys fighting about it, why don't you put it in your budget? Put $500 or $1,000, whatever it is a month that you think you spend on clothes, put it in there, then track it. And when you and your husband sit down and go over your finances, if you came under budget, then he's happy, right? But if you don't, and then you know what your spending plan is, then it stops the argument. And I could tell you countless stories of people like that you just put it in there. And the thing is, you guys, we make time and money for it, we'll do it, right? So I love this quote. I worked for menial hire only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have paid. So let that soak in for a second, right? I mean, think about that. So many of us get in a glass ceiling when in reality, there's opportunity all around us. We just got to look for it, right? As I said in the beginning, if we have clarity, then it will show up and it'll be everywhere around us. So like I said, I already talked about the book, but having a spending plan, download my budget, go through it. It will be uncomfortable. The first time I did, I was like, well, crap, no wonder we don't have any money. Right? So it'll be uncomfortable, but it's important for you to do. And we can't just stick our heads in the sand, right? My budget used to be add up the money every month and check the bank account. That was my plan. Didn't work so well, right? Came out on the IRS a lot of money for not paying taxes my first few years in real estate, right? So we don't want to do that. So again, we'll have that coming up. Okay, step 3. Watch me on time, because, yeah, okay, thank you. So step 3, this is also in the book. You can get a copy of this. It is a basic thing, right? When I got in the business, we used to talk about time management. That was the sexy thing, right? You're going to have good time management. Well, we've learned that's an oxymoron because you can't manage time. Sun goes up, sun goes down. It's what we have to do to manage what we do in the hours that we're committed to working. Most of us are busy, but we're not really focused on the money-making activities, right? I'm going to get into some of that, you guys, and some very, hopefully, tactical things you can walk away with to go implement today. But taking the time to figure out your time, right? Be good stewards of your time. When you're working and you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And usually that's our family and people that we care about, right? Because we got to go show a house at 5 o'clock when our dinner's cold, right? So a couple tips on this. You guys have probably already seen this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I think it was, I can't draw a blank on his name. Anyway, the big rock thing, if you haven't, you can Google it. It was a professor did a experiment, had a bucket with some water, some sand, and some rocks, right? And he started filling it up and going through, hey, is the bucket full, right? And so we have to figure out what are big rocks, because the big rocks have to go in first. If you put the water and the sand in, then all that spills out, right? So big rocks, what would be a big rock? Well, I'm going to start with the most important one, and that's prospecting. If I could figure out how to motivate you to prospect every day, I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be on an island somewhere retired. But it's the one thing that we fight. All of us fight it. It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to go. I got to do something else. Well, I'm not. I'll do it later, right? You can't. It has to be number one priority thing. It has to, you guys. This business is not rocket science, but what it is consistency. And so often we see this time of year, everyone's like, woohoo, holidays are over. Let's start prospecting, right? And then you have a great spring. Then everything closes and go, oh, shoot, better get back to prospecting. And then we close some and then go, oh, I'm going to go on vacation. And now it's October. And you come back and go, oh, I'm going to have a bad fourth quarter. No kidding. I coached a team one time that they literally went on vacation in July and did not come back to work until October. And consequently had a horrible fourth quarter. And they whined to me and said, why, Sarah? What happened? Well, you want me to be truthful with you? You didn't work for 3 months, right? And that's easy for us to do. And it's easy when our spouses and our families go, well, you don't have a real job. Have anybody heard that before? I was very lucky. My kid brother lived with me when I first got in the business. And every day, when I come home, he goes, you saw the house today? And there were some days I want to punch him in the mouth, right? Just I had been scoped at a showing or open house, right? But on the days, and he still does it 28 years later, sometimes he'll call me like, did you sell a house today? But I'll tell you what, that was awesome accountability for me. Because on the days that I sell a house, I couldn't wait for him to call me and say, I did sell a house, right? And so identify your prospecting, you guys. Another big rock, your family. Maybe it's your faith. Maybe it's going to the gym. Maybe it's having dinner at 5 o'clock with your family every single night. So we have to take the time to identify the big rocks. What are the most important things? I take vitamins every day. That's a big rock for me, right? It's for my health. I take vitamins. I recently got one of those vibration plates. Anybody see those things? I love it. I thought it was kind of a joke at first, but it's fantastic. So that started to become a big rock for me, is to do this thing every day. It's only 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes. Go watch Netflix while you're 10 minutes, right? Run some comps while you're on your vibration plate. So figure out what's important to you, right? What are the things that are non-negotiables every day, every week? And then you want to put it in some kind of a calendar, either paper. And here's a little tip for you that we found is most effective. If you're using any kind of a digital, most of us use Google for our calendars. You can create an overlay in there that says my intentional week. A lot of people call this my perfect week. I intentionally don't call it perfect because most of us are perfectionists and control freaks. And just by calling it perfect, it's already an impediment. You won't do it because nothing's ever perfect. Anybody C in here? Where's my C's? You guys do disc personality? Where's your C's? Nobody's raising their hand that they're a C? Okay. Who's an I? Got a couple people admitting their I's, right? I struggle with this because it's a high level, we all do. It's a high level of accountability, but it's also for an I, it feels very restrictive to have a set schedule like this that I have to follow every single day. So if you are an I, a little tip I would encourage you to do is first identify your big rocks, but then on Saturday or Sunday, look at your week and plug in your big rocks based on what feels good to you. Otherwise, if you try to follow a really rigid schedule, you're going to fail at it. Right? Because you can't take the stripes off of a zebra. It's just who you are. But it doesn't mean you're going to fail totally. You just have to have some fluidness with it, right? Have a little bit of creativity, right? So the rest of us that are C's and D's might really bite into having that strict schedule, okay? Identify the big rocks and put it in your calendar. Do it in your Google Calendar. If you have an assistant, share it with your assistant, okay? If you have children, share it with your children. There are no better accountability partners than children. Right? Because if you promise them that you're going to take them, I had somebody say they were getting slushies at the end of the week if they were good, if they got up and didn't have a temper tantrum before school. I'm like, oh, all right. Right? So we motivate them. If you involve them in your life and you say, hey, if mom or dad hits this goal, we're going to take vacation. I promise you, those kids see you not doing what you're supposed to do and you promise them a trip to Disneyland, they're going to be all over you, right? And so involve them. And then one suggestion I would make is live it. Oftentimes I see the biggest challenge is agents don't know how long it takes to drive to the office. I know that sounds silly, but we all think we have a cape. I can be there in 10 minutes. when really it takes 30, right? I can be there in 10. So live it for a week, pencil it, live it for a week, and then make adjustments, right? It does not have to be like set in stone and tattooed on your arm, right? Live it for a week. If you could hit your intentional week 3 times a week, you would see a massive change in your business, right? Another tip I have for you is don't use your cell phone as your alarm clock. They sell alarm clocks at Target. They still do exist. Reason being, right, and I'm guilty of this too. What do? We use our alarm clock, we roll over, and all those notifications, we clear them out right away. And if there's something bad in there or something stressful, that sets the tone for the entire day. Plus, you should be spending the first hour of your day filling yourself up, right? Don't turn on the news. Try not to get on Facebook. I'm guilty. So if you could have another great book I don't have with me is The Miracle Morning. Anybody read that? That's a great book. They have a version for realtors. You can read the first 2 chapters and get the concept of Miracle Morning, but it's basically, filling your first hour of your day with things that make you a better human being, right? So that'd be another tip. So live for a week, then make modifications to it. Now, this quote, if you don't manage your time, someone else will. And are we reactive? Ourselves, right? I used to have to go to the office to check my messages. That's how old I am. Right? But pagers. Anybody have a pager back in the day? So we had pagers. And clients had your home phone too. That was really fun. So put it in your calendar everywhere. So don't manage your time, right? Because we are reactive. And if you've been in this business less than 10 years, we've been order takers. We haven't been realtors. We've been order takers. You could whisper in a Starbucks, I have a new listing, and you'd have 40 offers on it. Right? To me, I don't like 40 offers. It's exhausting. Put a lot of pressure to pick the right one. Right? So we've been order takers. So what do I mean by that, right? The COVID market was wild, right? How many of you were in the market during COVID? I worked the REO market, you guys, and everybody said that was hard. And when I'm in Arizona where we had SB 1070, where you had people living in homes paying rent, and we had to come take the house away from them, and we couldn't do anything to help them because they didn't have a Social Security number. So that was hard. Right? It was heartbreaking. But the COVID market, I kind of fancy myself as a pretty good negotiator. I've never had to write 7 offers for one buyer, right? And win by giving a handwritten note to the seller, thanking them for the showing. That's how we won. We weren't the best offer, but we won because I wrote a note to the seller to say thank you for letting us see your home. Ridiculous, right? So we've been order takers. We got to get back to the streets, you guys. We got to learn how to sell. I have a gal that I coach, and she just got it under contract. She had a listing for 2 years. And she double-ended it, 1.3, so we'll take it, right? When I said to her, I was like, Laura, I am so excited for you to have this experience. She goes, what do you mean? It took 2 years for me to sell it. I said, yeah, but you did your job. You learned how to be a realtor. You learned how to sell. You learned how to maintain a relationship for 2 years so that all that marketing money didn't just go out the window, right? When we had agents saying I didn't have to put up a sign. I didn't even order photos. That's not being a realtor, guys. That's being an order taker. So here we are in a market, right? And I hear you guys had a fantastic year this year. That's what your management team was telling me last night at dinner. So congratulations to you. Let's keep that momentum going, right? Okay. So next step. Here's your QR code. So identify your top 50 in your CRM. And I'm going to do a little Remax infomercial right now. Hope that's okay. CRM, you guys. The best CRM on the planet is the one you'll use. Okay, it's not a spreadsheet, right? It's not a spreadsheet. It's not your contacts in your phone. It is a CRM where you intentionally go put the people that you know and you document things about them, right? And then we love on those people. The concept of top 50 is not mine. A guy named Mike Parker was a baby realtor many, many years ago. And this was way before we had Google Leads or Boomtown or Sync or whatever, Zillow. And he said, how am I going to make? And I did something very similar too. I had index cards because I'm old. So he wrote a list of 50 people who knew him, liked him, and who trusted him. Somebody that he would invite to a barbecue in his backyard. Oh, do you need me to get out of the way? Sorry. So he made a list of 50 people, and he spent 1 hour every day loving on those people. And it resulted in 86 transactions. Think about that for a second. 50 people, 86 transactions. I don't know about you, but I don't. As a solo agent, there's no way I can handle 86 transactions on my own, right? So that concept, you don't need leads. We need relationships, right? And so on my Remax infomercial, Bold Trail, switch from KV Core to Bold Trail. The average KV Core user spends about $450 a month for that CRM. And so we get it as part of our RE/MAX dues. So if you're not using it, I would highly encourage you to at least take a peek at it. I have 1 listing appointments using the presentations in there. It has this really cool funnel that shows how many leads your office has, and you guys have a lot of offices, so I'd imagine that funnel looks pretty cool. It's got all the leads that are actively looking for homes that fit that person's home. And I want a listing that way because they were like, oh my gosh, you already have leads from my house. How cool is that? Right? The buyer presentation. We all got to do buyer presentations. We should have been doing them, and I understand you guys are all at doing buyer presentations. And so there's stuff built already in Bold Trail, right? The online leads are amazing. $55, you do an open house. There's an open house app. So when people come into your open house, log them right into your KB Bold Trail. Sorry, it's gonna take me a minute to get used to saying Bold Trail. So log them right in there. I haven't personally used that, but I know agents that have, and they're loving it, right? The drips in there, people come in, get on the campaigns. The other thing I would highly, highly encourage you to sign up for is the RE/MAX concierge service. I just signed up for it about 3 weeks ago, already got a lead. Not a lead, but it's a lead, right? I mean, he's a great guy. It's just a low price point. It's a little challenging in my market because we don't average price about $450 in Phoenix. And so if you're under that, it's a little challenging to find you something, but we're going to get it done, right? And I got him over to Motto Mortgage to get qualified. Great guy. And what's really cool, concierge service is a person. And so he made the comment, I want to be connected to a real person. And the concierge guy writes back, I am a real person. Completely changed the dynamic of the lead. Guard came down, started giving him information, and it gets passed over to me. He's my new best friend. He calls me every day. So hopefully going to take him out next week in the house. So a couple other RE/MAX tools that I really recommend is remaxhustle.com. You can create all kinds of assets in there. There's a video component in there. Bold Trail, you guys, within a couple hours, you get a bunch of assets. You don't have to go out and create a flyer. You've already got one. You've got a social media post. And lastly, the other one is PhotoFi. PhotoFi is like, what, $65 a year, right? Something like that. I think a little bit, but it's super cheap. You do it right from your phone. And I have agents all the time comment on my stuff like, how'd you get that asset on your social? It's right from PhotoFi. And literally the quick grabs takes you 30 seconds to create something, right? So I highly recommend those. It's all branded to RE/MAX. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Everything's there. Lastly, there is a Facebook group called RE/MAX Collective Collaborative Share. I believe that's what it's called. If you haven't joined that, join it. They pump out a ton of great content that they're putting out for us to use, right? So you just gotta make sure it isn't branded to a specific office, but they have a lot of really great stuff. So that's my little infomercial. So going back to your top 50. So we should all have a CRM. Again, not a spreadsheet, not our Google contacts. You wanna tag them and sit and take the time. Some of us that have been in the business a minute, it's hard to think, well, what's my top 50? I've got 250 people in my database. Again, these are people who know you, like you, trust you, and would do business with you if they knew they should. And admittedly, I'm one of them that hasn't done a good enough job asking for those referrals. So when I get home, I already have a letter, it's printed out to my top 50 that says, I want to talk about you. And that 80% year was referred to me, mostly by RE/MAX agents, thank you. But I'm not going to tell them that, right? It was referred to me. And the letter basically says that I want a referral from you. I need a referral from you, right? And when we can talk about it, connect that ask with something important in our lives, like you could take your RE/MAX concepts or your charity thing, talk about that. I want to help X number of kids. People will get behind that more so than anything else. Right? I know a guy who said, well, I need a referral from you because my kid decided to do 3 more years in college. So you got to help me pay for the college. So we can connect that to people, that it's not just about us, it's about something we're passionate about, changes the ask, right? And I think a lot of us feel like we get commission breath. And I want to ask, I don't want to be related to a used car salesman. Sorry if any of you past life. Get pigeonholed in that, right? And we get uncomfortable for the ask. But reality is, if they had a good experience with you, shouldn't we expect that they refer you? And I don't know if you've had a crappy agent, but there are some out there. None of us, of course. There's some out there. I don't want someone I love and care about working with an agent that doesn't care about their best interest, right? And it's certainly if I close a deal with someone, whoever you love and trust is now in my circle. And I want to make sure they have the same level, right? The same level of experience. We don't do a good enough job at the ask. So identify your top 50, get them in your CRM, identify them as a top 50. We're going to go a little bit deeper with that in a couple slides. Okay. So speaking of a top 50, this is one of Nate's, he is his #1 guy. It's actually 20 now because he's done 2 more transactions with him. His name's William. We call him John in the book. Gotta keep his privacy. But anyway, John was a sign call in 1996, a sign call. And look at all these transactions. And this is just what we can track. And again, I need to update my slide because he just bought 2 more properties from Nate recently. John, he likes to buy houses, and his ex-wife liked to move like every 2 years. And so he's a really great client, right? So when Nate has something going on and he wants to love on someone, this is his guy, right? He calls this guy first. And so we have to track this stuff and know how many deals are they doing with you, repeat, and how many referrals are they sending to us, right? Because the highest compliment we can receive is a referral. And then you want to squeeze that orange and go a little deeper with it, right? Not just a thank you note, but go deeper with it, okay? On the thank you. So I love this slide because you can see, I mean, that's a lot. And again, there's more money than that because there's 2 more transactions on there. And like I said, this is what we can track. He owns an insurance company. So I know there's more transactions that have come as a result of that relationship with him. Okay. So tracking, knowing who, keep cutting out, knowing who are your go-to people. Can you guys hear me still? Just move it up. Okay. I think we're still good. We're good. Yeah. So knowing who your people are and tracking it. Okay. All right. So going back to the concept of top 50, I love this quote. I hope most of you know what Mary Kay is. It's a makeup line. So pretend that every single person you meet has a sign around his or her neck that says, make me feel important. Not only will you succeed in sales, you will succeed in life. And so we think about helping someone with their primal need shelter, right? We have to do more, right? We have to care more. I want to be their realtor for life, right? I want to help them with anything that has to do with their home. You need a pet sitter, a dog walker, a roofer. I want to be your conduit, right? Because if I can keep you close in my bubble, then I know that you're not going to go work with somebody else, right? And you're going to refer me, okay? And think about when you've ever someone's really listened to you and made you feel special, right? So one of my favorite things to do for prospecting is birthday phone calls. Because you'd be surprised how many people that their own children don't call them first thing in the morning on their birthday. But their realtor remembered, right? And then if you have a conversation with someone and something comes up as a topic, go deeper with it. My plan is to go to Greece for my 50th birthday, right? So for my birthday this year, my sister-in-law gave me a book on how to travel to Greece, right? Kind of cool. So think about that. If you have a conversation, you find out they're going to be empty nesters or, lost a loved one, like follow up with that, squeeze the orange and go deeper with it. You will wow them. And that wow factor is important because that's how we deepen the relationship. My personal opinion is the relationship it starts when we meet them, but it does not end when we cash the commission check, right? We want to maintain that relationship. There's different stats out there. I think Brian Buffini says that average client's worth $65,000. I've heard varying things. As we can see from this guy, it's obviously worth a lot more than that, right? Than $65,000. Okay. All right. So step 5 is lead gen like a badass with a 12-month plan. I'll be transparent. Last year, I started out strong in Q1, right? Had my January letter that went out. I did my Valentine's Day. I did my St. Patrick's cards and scratchers, and then nothing till August. How well was that? Terrible. I'm being transparent with you because I'm like you. I get it, right? Life happened. The NAR thing happened. We lost our broker, right? We had a lot of stuff happen in our office, right? And learning, just all the changes, all that stuff, right? And so I have now a plan, but it's not happening again this year, right? It's already done. January letters are already printed. They're in my car when I get home. It's going to go in the mail, right? So why I share this and in the book, which we probably need to give a book away. I'm getting close on time here. If you sit down and create that, there's something happening in every month that you could do a touch. I think August is the only month that doesn't have some national holiday. There's also whimsical days, right? There's a National Sarah Day. Like you could go have some fun with that and put that out there. A lot of people do Pie Day, but there's also the mathematical Pie Day in March that I've had clients go deliver little pies, right? So there's tons and tons of creative ideas. Chapter 8, I've got a bunch of ideas in there. There's also Etsy, Google, right? It's not the only one. Just start collecting those things and think about who's the demographic in your top 50? Who are they, right? What are their ages? They have children? Are they retirees? I work in elderly neighborhoods. A lot of my people are, retirees. They're not going to want the same thing that someone with a bunch of kids wants, right? So we want to meet them where they are. It needs to be relevant. It needs to be irresistible. And then it needs to be consistent. Right? It has to be consistent. KV Core, Bold Trail, has a monthly touch you can do with market update. So that's a really great touch too. And I love that because whenever I log in, I can see who my people are that are tracking those reports. And that's somebody that's kind of putting their hand up saying, I might be ready to sell, right? The same with social media, you guys. If you see someone say, oh my gosh, I hate my drive, kind of putting their hand up to say they want to move. Or my favorite is, oh, we have a surprise baby. Hi, I'm in Phoenix. It's hot. I hate the summers. Maybe you want to go to the pool, right? Pay attention to that. Social media gives us such an opportunity to take our relationships and put them on steroids. Right? Keep cutting out. Okay. So remember, we don't need leads. We need relationships. So lead gen. So 12 months. Take the time. If there's anything you take out of this today, go home and look at the calendar and identify what you're going to send out every single month. I'm pretty cheap, frugal. So I like to buy things that are inexpensive but have a nice wow factor. So the best one that I did was popcorn. I went to Costco to popcorns and I dropped off a little note that said, popping in to say hello from your favorite realtor. I heart your referrals. People geeked out about that. And I get popcorn. Right? Stupid. It costs me what? How much? Like 50 cents a popcorn because it's super cheap at Costco, right? So take the time to do it now because it's January. If we don't do it now, you'll be like me and it'll be August and nothing will have gone out. It's super important. Everybody you know knows somebody else who's a realtor. In my market, there's 6,000 agents, but only 67,000 homes sold. So there were some agents who didn't get paid, right? So everybody you know knows somebody. And the goal with this lead gen idea is that you be the heck yes choice. I bought my house that I'm currently in as a for sale by owner during the wild market right before the rates went up. And I said, she goes, we're meeting with one of our good friends tonight at 5 o'clock. We're going to list the house. We're going to raise the price. So, well, if I write an offer right, will you not do that? She said, yes. She proceeds to tell me that they have 5 friends that are all realtors, 2 of which are their besties, husband's bestie, wife's bestie. They picked the realtor to list the house that was the one that they felt would get her feelings hurt the most if they didn't hire her. This is probably the same person who advised them not to do a home inspection buying a foreclosure property. Right? Or maybe didn't necessarily talk bad of it, but didn't encourage them to do it. Right? House has some warts, let's just say. So I love telling that story because it wasn't based on skill. It wasn't based on who was the best. It wasn't based on who was going to do the job for them or get the best price and terms. It was the feelings. And I guess some of that's okay, but I want someone to pick me because I'm the best choice, right? I'm the best choice for them to represent them, okay? So like I said, if there's anything you take, please go have a 12-month plan. I'm going to book. So somebody give me an aha that you've had today so far. In the back. Are you really? What are you doing here? Well, all right. That's a good enough reason. What would be the? Have you? Not an assistant, but okay, nice, awesome. Way back, yeah. He's an old guy, so he's been around for a minute. Hopefully, you got nice, Nate, because he wasn't really nice when we were younger. So, me neither. Yeah, I might have been a bit of a hothead back in the day. I'm just saying. All right, so next step, tracking everything. So we know that bill is a result of 20 transactions because we tracked it, right? We have to track everything, you guys. We got to track even not just money, but where our time is spent. So I coached a guy who had this beautiful spread in Michigan. I think it was Michigan. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Beautiful spread with the lake. And we were looking at his time. And every other weekend, he spent 3 hours mowing this beautiful spread. Actually, it was more like a whole day by the time he got done with it. And we were looking at his time and his budget and saying, where can you get more time? He wanted to spend more time on that lake with his daughter. And when I pressed him, well, why don't you outsource the lawn? Get somebody else to come in and do it. How much would it cost? That's $600 a month. And he pushed me and said, well, it's not in the budget. That's whatever, how many $1,000 a year. It's not in the budget. And I looked at him on Zoom and I said, so what you're telling me is that your daughter's not worth that $600. He wasn't very happy with me. He was not very happy with me. So, but think about that. How many things in our lives we do that could be outsourced, right? Like I like to get the hard-boiled eggs at Costco because I'm not really a good cook. And by the time I make hard-boiled eggs, they end up being a mess, right? They're a little bit more expensive, but you get hard-boiled eggs that are perfect. They're perfectly cooked. They're not undercooked or overcooked, which I love when I do them undercooked. So they're perfect. They're a little bit more. But when I look at my time and my frustration of making hard-boiled eggs, it's worth going and paying a little bit more. So we want to track everything. So where are you spending your money? housekeepers, landscapers, all that, anything that can be outsourced, as long as it's in your budget, that's where you free yourself up, because your number one best thing that you do is go out and shake hands and kiss babies. Lead genning, right? It's building relationships. It's finding more people to help realize their dream as a homeowner. It's not boiling eggs. It's not doing laundry, right? So track everything. I want you to track your listing appointments, track how many leads are coming in, right? We track that stuff. I hear people on the phone, oh, that's under contract. Thanks. Have a nice day. What? What? So we want to track your appointments. How many do you get? What's your conversion rate? Can I improve that? Are you farming? If you're farming, are you tracking the leads that are coming in? How many appointments are you going on? Are you paying attention to what's selling in that farm area, causing it to sell? How many buyer consultations? This is a good one, you guys. How many buyer consultations are you going on? How many are you getting signed? And how many are you getting pushback on commission? Right? That's a good one to track, and tracking your commission. There's all kinds of speculation that we're going to see a downward trend in what we're getting paid. I personally think that there should be a trend upward. Right? Right? Thank you. Because why not? Why not? And I'm not going to say know your value, because it's so trite and rude, because we all know our value. But tracking that stuff is going to be really important. We have to track everything, because you can't improve if you don't track it. And so if I don't know what my conversion rate is, if I'm going on a bunch of listings and I'm getting all of them, my challenge to you is you're probably not going to meeting strangers, right? So if I'm tracking it and I'm not getting any, then we have a coachable moment around what are you saying to people? The same thing with open houses. How many are you doing? What's your traffic rate? How many leads are you converting? Open houses are great, you guys. I hope you guys are doing them, because they're a fantastic way to lead generation, especially if you don't have anything going on. Go do some open houses. 60% of the people that come through an open house buy. So that's definitely, to me, it's tried and true, old school, right? It's kind of like door knocking. So, and everything works and nothing doesn't, right? So what's going to be your jam with that? So track everything. There on the next slide, I've got this is really basic, right? You can take this and put it in a Google form and just track how many appointments, what was your face-to-face, and what were your conversions, right? The other thing I think you want to track is your outbound attempts. If you have a goal to commit to a 3-2-1 concept, which is basically talk to 3 people in your sphere, try to meet 2 new people, and learn 1 new thing. The average is five outbound calls to connect with 1 person. Might be a little bit different if you're working in your sphere of influence, your top 50, because hopefully they have your number saved. Right? I've had that happen to me before where I'm like, I'm your realtor. Why is my number not saved in your phone? So for 5 calls, so if you want to talk to 3 people, essentially if you do the math, it's potentially 15 outbound attempts. Right? And when we talk about making calls, I have a mastermind I'm in at my office, and when we talk about our calls, but we give each other a hard time, because there'll be people, I'm gonna do 10. What? You won $1 million this year and you would call 10 people? So we give each other a hard time, and it's conversations. It's not attempts. So if you say you're gonna do 25 conversations, to do the math, I can't do that math that fast in my head, 5 outbounds for 25. It's a lot. Right? It's a lot. But when we track that, there's a clear distinction between our top producers and our non-producers. And it's based on the commitments that they make and the conversations that they make every week. Okay? So tracking it. All right, step 7. Client events. And so there is another chapter in the book. I'll give it 15 more minutes. We'll give another book away. Okay? So somebody come up with something good out here. So creating raving fans. And so client events. NAR published a study a couple years ago that said the best way to get new business is to have client events, to be face-to-face with people. And so this isn't, drop off a pop-by and go run to your car. This is interacting with people. And I know 6 to 8 might seem like a lot, but let me walk you through an example. Pop that up on the screen. Quarterly happy hours. People have birthdays. If there's 2 people in a home, that's 2 potential touches that you could have with a household. And happy hours are easy, right? You buy a little bit of appetizer, buy them a drink, they're on their way. It's great to face. Easy, and you support local businesses. Having a holiday event, so that gets me up to 5, right? And then doing a movie event, so shred event, right? There's other things you can layer in there. Movie events are great. In fact, that's what I have up on the slide, is movie events. I've had some clients take, not necessarily Jurassic Park, it was a Marvel movie. I think it's Marvel. One of them, whoever Superman and Batman, all those are, right? So that movie did some guys that came dressed up, and they took pictures with him. And then the cool thing about that is she sent copies of the pictures to her clients. They're never going to throw that away, right? They're never going to throw it away. It's likely they're going to put it in a frame, and they're going to hang on to it, right? And what are they going to do every time they look at it? They're going to think about you. right? They're going to check in on social media, tag you, right? So it's got a lot of meat. What I love about client events and the reason they're so successful, I don't have one person who does a client event and doesn't come back to me and tell me they got business either the day of or like the next day, right? You have the save the date, you have the RSVP, you have the attendance, and then you have the follow-up after, right? And even if they don't come, you still made the touch, right? You still made them valuable. We used to get on phones and call, hey, I got 2 tickets to the Arizona Cardinals. You want to go? Call. Most of the time, if you said it's today, right? It's today. The game's today at 6:05. Oh, man, Sarah, thanks so much for thinking of me, but I can't. You just keep calling until someone says yes. And then you go online, you buy the tickets, and you leave them at will call. If no one says yes, I'm not out any money, right? But I made a whole bunch of touches to make people feel really special that I invited them. If you want to squeeze the orange, buy 4 tickets, take your significant other and go with, right? So that is a really great, I love those type of events. You guys don't have any professional sports though, do you? Aw, how sad. You have March Madness though, don't you? Yeah. So that could be a great touch too, right? Is have a March Madness thing, So client events, Pi Day. Our office is really big about Pi Day. This has turned into a really huge thing. We've got several agents that participate in it. People come. I've got people that do it at a local restaurant. They'll do a venue and they'll have Pi Day there and they'll invite people to come and they have like a little bit of a happy hour around it. So it's a really effective way to, the problem with Pi Day is it's not long enough, right? People come get their pie and then they take off, right? When you couple it with a happy hour, now you have more FaceTime with people. And so you can interact a little bit more, but it still isn't the same. Same with the movie. Movies are great because there's no setup or cleanup, but there's really no FaceTime. So that's why I like happy hours. I like holiday open houses, anywhere where you can, even if it's small, intimate. We had a gal in our office whose husband was a professional chef. And so every month she would invite a client she was currently working with and a past clients. And they would come to her house and her husband would make this meal for them. And she was the focal point because they talked about how awesome she was, right? And that what people want to come to your house, the realtor lives, right? And then of course he was a professional chef, so it was a really nice dining experience. So when we talk about face-to-faces, they don't have to be grand in scale. You have to eat. So should you be eating alone? Right? Think about that. So we don't have to have these grand scale things. They can be very intimate, private, one-on-one type things or small groups. Or like I said, you can do the big, movie events and that type of stuff. There is a chapter in the book that's chocked full of great ideas that I've collected over the years, things that coaching clients and things that we've done. We used to do spring training games. That's a big thing in Arizona. If you ever want to escape the cold, go to Phoenix in March and check out a spring training game. The challenge was we were doing it at like a Wednesday afternoon, and we never got the attendance that we really had hoped for. Well, at the time, our database was full of young families. They were working. And I would love to go to a spring training game on a Wednesday. Switched it to a Saturday, completely different, right? Because now people were available. And so that was a lot of fun to do that back then. So you got to think about what's relevant. Do you have any events? My understanding, you guys got a lot of festivals in the summertime. So could you buy tickets for festivals and have people come and join you there? So thinking about what do they need? What will they get? What will they leave the house to go to? You have to think about, with so much noise, what's in it for me? I'm going to leave the comfort of my home, my Netflix. What's in it for me? And so you have to think about that. So what is going to motivate them and inspire them to get out of the house and come engage with you? Okay. So the goal is to be face-to-face. I think I got one more picture. This is Nate's #1 guy. Took a picture with him last year at the Pi Day. Okay, so I'm going to probably finish a little bit early if that's okay. Okay, but I do have 2 more books to give away. And before I do that, I brought this book because this is one of my other really, really favorite go-tos. If you have not read this yet, The Greatest Salesman in the World. And Brian Buffini actually interviewed Matthew McConaughey. And if you haven't read that one, Green Lights is really good too. Matthew McConaughey is not a huge fan of him as an actor, but I'm a fan of him as a human being. And he actually talked about how he got this book and he studied it for 2 years. And he's not in sales, but just the impact that it made on him as a human. And so he talks about it in his book, but then he was also interviewed with Brian Buffini talking about it. So you can see mine's a little tattered, little beat up, highlighted, dog-eared, right? And so the concept of this is there's 10 scrolls and you study each scroll, one scroll every day for 30 days. So it'd take you 10 months to get through the whole book. Take you about 2 hours to read the whole thing. It's an easy read. Have you read it? It's fantastic, right? I'm hard pressed on a bad day. Open this up. I will greet this day with love in my heart. That's perfect timing, have that marked there, because when we think about what we do and the resistance that we have to prospecting and getting out and doing the open houses, right? I don't want to be rejected. Well, if you read, I will greet this day with love in my heart. And he goes on to say in this chapter that who can say no to my goods when he hears the love in my heart, right? So before you pick up the phone to prospect, I love you, right? Because we love our people. Even though I joked about not liking people, we do love our people, right? And we have a service, you guys. We have an obligation to show up and be a part of their lives. If you get invited to weddings, funerals, baby showers, bat mitzvahs, go. That is a huge compliment. I've been to all of them, right? I've been to all of them. And someone invites me to their parents' funeral. That's huge. That is huge, right? I just invited to a 60th birthday party. I'm going, right? So because that is a big compliment. We are part, we look at it and go, okay, well, transaction's over. I'm moving on to the next. We just help these people with their American dream. We're important to them. We are important, especially if it was hard. I love the deals when the wife stands in the kitchen and cries. Slam dunk. Here's the contract. Sign there, right? So, right? Or if, you have those moments where you just know. I pulled up to my house. I actually bought my house before I even bought it off the pictures because I fell in love with the windows. It's like, my Christmas tree is going to go right there, right? What a close me sign, right? Yeah, I don't have to work too hard on that one. Here's the contract. Look for that light. So anyway, I love this book, 10 Scrolls. You read it every day. And it's a great book. So who say no to my goods when it's love in my heart? All right, so lastly, step 8 is accountability. Nobody wants accountability. I don't want you to tell me all the things I'm doing or not doing right, or the amount of time I'm spending on Facebook or Instagram, right? I want you to tell me that. So accountability is a high level of putting a mirror in your face and showing you all the things that, you don't like about yourself. But accountability also means I love you. If you think about your children and you tell them not to run in the street, you're saving their life potentially, right? It's accountability, but it's a form of I love you. If you ask them to clean their room or do their homework, they might think that you're being a jerk, but it really means I love you. I read a book, Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollister, and the one thing that stuck out in that book is she said her life began to change when she stopped breaking promises to herself. How many of us do that? Especially if you're a mom or a wife, right? You're down here on the importance list, right? And as women, we are problem solvers and trying to 2 steps ahead, trying to solve everything 2 steps ahead, anticipate what might happen. And if you got kids, other, maybe taking care of an elderly parent, right? All that stuff adds. And then we're trying to be entrepreneurs on top of it, right? And so accountability, and I would encourage all of you, look around the room. Is there someone here that you could be accountability partners with? But take it seriously. Take it seriously. There's a guy named Pat. What's Pat's last name? Yeah, what's Pat's last name? I think he was a KW agent. And then there's David Osborne and a couple other guys. Anyway, they have a group called Go Abundance. And they were at a convention down in Cancun. Nate was there too. And the speaker, Fred something, that's in the book, he said, look around the room and pick an accountability partner. So David Osborne and this other guy, I forget his name, both wildly successful, very wealthy men at this point in their lives. They did the man nod from across the room. And they were accountability partners. Nate, sitting next to somebody, they go, all right, let's be accountability partners. And their check-ins were like, hey, how you doing? These two, they took it serious. And again, it's in the book. Look them up. Both of them are authors and really cool human beings, but they took it seriously. And now they have this Go Abundance group where people pay thousands of dollars to be a part of this accountability group, right? And they do really cool things. So when we talk about accountability, if I love you and we get on a call and I say the dog ate my homework, you're going to call me out on that. Right? And don't give me excuses. That's why I love our gas meetings, because my peers call me out. I'm in there as a peer, not as the coach or the trainer. And they call me out. They do. They call me out. And I know when I show up, I don't want to be the one the dog ate my homework. Right? And I will tell you, I had a fantastic year, and I will attribute that to showing up every Monday and having to report my numbers, report my excuses, and getting my butt called out by my peers. I will attribute 135% improvement this year in my business from going to a mastermind. You guys have masterminds here, don't you? Yeah, awesome. So lean into that, because not every company does. Okay, be vulnerable. Let yourself be seen. If you got something going on, talk to somebody, talk about your fears and your stresses, right? There's a lot of uncertainty, and every January we all start over and go, oh shoot, I just sold everybody I know a house. What am I going to do? We panic, right? And then the phone starts to ring and everything looks good again. Okay. All right. Give one book away and then we'll wrap up. So accountability means I love you. So go find, and I have a little recap too. Who else had an epiphany? All right, over here. Ooh, I got 2 hands up. Maybe I'll give both of them away. What was your epiphany?
Defending your value and how we impact people's lives. Just kind of thinking out of the box that we can be an advocate every single day online, kind of sharing those small things that we do for individuals that typically people wouldn't even understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Every transaction has a story, right? The contracts are black and white, right? For the most part, the legal piece of it, but every house has a story. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that. In the back. Yep.
You get the mic.
Sorry. So she said that she liked the people online. She liked the idea of sharing more of the story of a transaction and online and talking more about that. So sorry.
I don't know if mine is as good as hers. But and as sad as this is, I took when you say yes to someone, saying no to your family. So that kind of hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
Especially when, and it's not even just to my kids. I'm saying no to my husband.
Yeah. So that's why when we think about being efficient, and having your intentional week, your intentional day, which is kind of similar to what we do in the journal, he'll tell you that if he gets done by noon, he goes home and plays Xbox. And he's one of the top 10 Remax agents in the country as a solo. You had him here? Yeah. And I believe he's in a secondary market, right? So be intentional, right? If you could be laser focused and get your work done, go home, be with your family, right? To be a big rock, right? Love that. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So let me do a quick recap and then we will get going here. So step 1, as I mentioned, get clear on your vision, right? Be crystal clear of what it is. And sometimes we need to cross through it and double it. There's opportunity for all of us out there, right? There's money to be made, as Nate will say, just go make more of it, right? So be clear about that, what it is that you want. Because again, the universe is conspiring. We live on this giant magnetic thing, and I imagine a ship and someone's overboard, and we're on the ship going, hey, I'll throw you a lifeline. And we're like, nah, I'm good. But you're drowning, right? So take advantage of the arrows that are in your life, right? Get with those, take those tools and concepts. And, the last chapter of the book, I talk about action. Because anything I say up here is worthless unless you go home and take action. And that goes with anything in your life, any book you read, any webinar, podcast. If you don't take action, and even if it's janky, you guys, even if it's messy, I will tell you my first buyer presentation in the new law order, it was messy. It was uncomfortable. I might have sweated a little. And so even if it's messy, right, it's okay, because forward progress is still progress, okay? And step 2 is to have a business plan and a working budget, otherwise known as a spending plan, because if it's in the plan, you have money to spend it. I went to London last year in April with my nephews, and we started talking about it in September. One of them was his birthday, and I always take him to sushi. Those boys can eat a lot of sushi. And we started saying, well, what's a bucket list trip you want to take? I'm like, I've always wanted to go to Abbey Road. I'm a big Beatles fan, right? Hence the name of my dog. So we started getting on our phones. How much would it cost in a week in London? And I saw their little eyes open up. They're 19 and 23. Little eyes open up. Well, Auntie, I have that money in savings. I could do that. The next thing you know, we're booking a trip and had a fabulous 6 days in London. Highly recommend it. London was amazing. Can't wait to go back. And I would probably go for a couple extra days. But anyway, my point in that is that when we think about things, and most people, when I tell them how much it costs to go to London, they're like, no way. Because they automatically think that London's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars. It's not, right? And so how many of us think about things that maybe is something that's been burning inside of you, and you think, I can't do that because? Hope doesn't know odds, guys. Right? Clarity creates a vision, right? It helps us get there, okay? So put it in your plan. You want to spend money on clothes or jewelry? Put it in your plan. Be intentional with your time. As she mentioned back here, if you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else, right? And prospecting has got to be a big rock. Consistency and action. Those are the 2 things that we have to have if we want to thrive in any market. Creating your top 50. Because I can't stress this enough, I have lots of people that I coach within the Workman program that are killing it with their top 50. They're not spending money on Zillow, right? They're not doing anything else. They're working their top 50. Again, 50 people, 1 hour a day, resulted in 86 transactions. There's another master coach, Tammy Slay. I don't know if you've ever met her. She did 78 units in a year and a half from her top 50. So, and those are just a couple stories I could tell you of massive impact. Those are relationships that already know you, like you, trust you. They're way easier to work than chasing an internet lead that says, I don't know how you got my number. Click, right? Okay, and then lead gen like a badass. Again, please leave here and go get your calendar. Write down 12 things you're going to do this year to stay connected with your people. Utilize the Bold Trails monthly update. People look at it. You can follow them on there. And then tracking everything. I want you to track everything down to the time you spend boiling an egg. Right? Look how you can get more time out of your life. Is there something that can be outsourced that's in your budget, right? It's in your spending plan that will free you up, because the best thing that you can do is, one, be present for your family and friends, and two, be there for your clients, right? Show up. Track everything, and then raving fans by hosting client events. 6 to 8 might feel really big for you because maybe you've never done one. So start out with one. Start out with one. Start out with a happy hour. Make it simple. Make it affordable, right? Pop buys, that's your thing. Pop buys are great. They just take a lot of time. They're very time consuming. So I do pop buys at Thanksgiving, and it's a great couple days, but man, it sucks the life out of you. But I can be hammered by the time I'm done, because everyone's like, come in, have a glass of wine. I've got one client to make whiskey. They're like, come in. I'm like, no, I got other pop buys I got to do. So, but whatever's going to work, whatever works for you to get face-to-face. That's the whole concept of that, is to have face-to-face interaction with people, okay? And then find a mentor. If you're not a part of the masterminds that your leadership team has put together, I would highly encourage you to do that. Or look around the room. There's someone in here that you could say, hey, do the man bro thing. You know, I got you. Let's go. Right? Again, 135% improvement in my business by participating, okay? So invest in yourself. R4 is coming up. Got a great lineup. I can't wait to go. You know, it's going to be a good time. So if you haven't gone, I would highly encourage you to go. If it's your first time, it's definitely worth it. Make sure you wear good shoes, because you do a lot of walking, and make sure you do some swag, right? We have an opportunity. 80% of my business, you guys, was referred to me by RE/MAX agents. That's a lot. Right? That is a lot. It has 100% paid me to be a part of the brand. And so staying present with that, making sure people know. And when you go to things, network, right? I'm a Jeeper, so I'm going to take my little duck that I have, because if you're a Jeeper, you get ducked. I don't know why, but it's a thing. So I have a little duck that's branded. So that's going to be my giveaway when I go to R4. People are going to remember me, right? They're going to remember me. And there's not a lot of RE/MAX agents in my market. And because of my last name, I think I get more referrals that way too. I'm higher on the roster. So that's what I got for you guys. Any questions, ahas, comments? Anything you guys want to add? Yes.
So you said you're doing your November, like big ones where you're stopping by, that's taking a lot of time.
Yeah.
Every month you said you're doing some, are you doing just mailers then?
Mailers or mix in pop buys and then client events.
And then how much money are you spending a year total that you're setting aside for? stuff
So like I
that?
said, I'm cheap. So I like to try to do them under $5 if I can.
$5 per client.
Yeah. Depends on the client though. Like if they sent me a really nice referral, then I'd probably do something a little bit nicer for them. I've got a client I coach. She does Versace robes for every closing. Yeah. They're not that expensive. They're really not that expensive. And when you're making $30,000, $40,000 a deal, a Versace robe is nothing. So, but I'm cheap. So I like to do about $5. Anybody got any other comments on that? $5 to $10 is probably a good budget.
No, I just had a quick question. I was very intrigued by the potential lead funnel for a listing. How you said what's that called in?
So it's in Bold Trails.
Yeah, but
Well,
what's
is
it
it
called
Bold-
in there so I can look for it?
It's Core Present.
Core Present?
Core
Okay,
Present,
thank
yep. You go in and create a new listing presentation. You can actually customize it, take a picture of the house and put their name and stuff on it. And you walk through, you can put your comps in there. And then at the end, you can pick and choose. I love that they pivoted, that when you do the buyer one, they got now talks about commissions and all that. KB Core jumped on that because that stuff didn't exist before the NAR lawsuits. If you haven't gotten in there and play with that, I definitely would encourage it. It's called Core Present.
Can we talk about the 50 people on your list that you love
Mhm.
every day for an hour?
Mhm.
That feels like a little bit too much love for those 50 people. So like if you did a pop buy, or like there's a lot of work involved in the marketing if you're sending something out for St. Patrick's Day scratch offs or a pop buy or a pie party. So would you consider the time that you invest an hour a day working on those projects to include those 50 people? Would you include that?
No.
Or like you're still saying call those overlap? Oh my God.
So you're not calling them every week. You spread it out. You take the 50 and you call five a week, right? So you're only, no, you're talking to 5 people in an hour. So you're going to pick 5 people. You're going to, yeah, one time a month. No, it is every day. You are prospecting every day, but you're only talking to a few people every day. So you're spending 1 hour, you're investing 1 hour of time, right? So you might, honestly, I've got some people who are talkers, right? So I might only get to 2 people an hour because they, I'm like, okay, I gotta go, right? So it's just 1 hour invested in how many other people you talk to, but the goal is you touch and talk to them at least once a month. Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, that's okay. She's like, what? I'm gonna die over here. Any other questions or comments? Did everybody get a bookmark? If you didn't, I've got some extras up here. So it's been a pleasure, you guys. Thank you so much. I really had a lot of fun. I hope you got something out of this. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.